I see, we failed as a state, pure and simple. And to the extent that as far back as 1960, and my good friend Kwesi Pratt, my senior, just sent me a daily graphic publication, 1960, when the floods came to Accra. Okay, I think it was on the Monday, April 18, 1960, when the rain came to Accra. And consistently over the years, these are matters that we've grappled with as a country. Drainage systems, storm drains, and all that have not been able to accommodate the growing population of Accra. And so that's why political commitments that people make, especially when they promise a reset, ought to be held and asked, or questions asked as to what it is that they are doing to deal with the problem in accordance with the promises that they made. I agree, it's a perennial problem. But the current government made promises knowing very well that these problems exist, and asked Ghanaians to vote for them. If they come, they're going to solve them. So I asked the question, for example, that on page 64 of the manifesto, 67 of the current ruling NDC government, they promised that they were going to construct water retention and detention reservoirs in flood-prone communities to reduce perennial flooding and for irrigation and other purposes. What has happened to this promise? Because as far as I'm concerned, between 2025 and 2026 that they've been in government, I haven't cited any water retention reservoirs being built anywhere in Ghana. What has happened to the commitment on the same page 67 to construct and improve drainage systems in Accra, Kumasi, Takrady, Koforidua, and other flood-prone cities and towns and town areas? What has happened to the commitment to construct water storage facilities, reservoirs, to store rain and pipe-borne water? What has happened to the commitment to building water detention ponds in flood-prone cities for flood control and irrigation? What has happened to repairing and maintaining drainage systems such as those on the Odo River to substantially manage water resources? What has happened to constructing storm drainage systems in critical urban areas to mitigate flood risk? Because that's what the people in Alajo and other communities in Accra, in Chado and other places who are facing the floods today, in Achimota and other places, asking. These are the critical questions that our compatriots who are suffering the floods asking. Not common rain harvesting in their homes. Because yes, that will help in reducing their own water bills if they're able to harvest and store the rain. There may be some runoff that, will be reduced. But these rains that we are seeing, it's not normal rain harvesting that is going to deal with it. It's the commitments that the political parties that get political office through their manifestos ought to work to ensure. So these are the critical questions that I'm asking the government of the day. Because it cannot be that arising out of the fact that these are matters that we've dealt with over the years, the present government can be excused because they knew the issues and they proffered solutions in their manifesto that they were going to deal with these issues when they are elected into office. So what is happening to those commitments? Clearly, from what we've seen in the past week, none of these commitments that the government made has been fulfilled, or even in the process of being fulfilled. But of course, when you go and say these things, they will tell you that, well, they have a 4-year mandate. But the people who are suffering can't wait till 2028 before they ask the questions.
But some of the assemblies have been doing the desilting and stuff.
You see, my own constituency where I come from, in the past 2 weeks, the MP and the NADBO director are all over radio fighting over who is responsible for desilting. You go to communities like Isaman in Jamwa for the past 2 weeks, consistently. So what happened to the desilting that the government promised it was going to enable the assemblies undertake? But I know that some of these things are not mere desilting. They require engineering, they require resources. And the government knew it. The time that they were making these commitments, they knew. All the designs, the engineering designs have been sitting in the assemblies for years. They knew it. They've been in government before. On top of that, they knew. So what are the solutions that they are proffering? As far as I'm concerned, that's what the people who are suffering and cleaning their homes this morning, these are the questions that they are asking. And it's important that the government ups its game. They did not win the election only because of exchange rate stability or reduction in inflation. Many other social commitments were made by this government to the people of Ghana. And they owe a duty to deliver on those commitments. You can't blame any previous government. Because if their work was satisfactory, they wouldn't have lost an election. The man who is in the driving seat now are the ones who ought to answer to the people of Ghana why 2 budgets down the line, we haven't seen the investment that is going to go into the commitments that they made to deal with these problems that the people are suffering. That's the question.
Boss. Look, I think it is important. It is imperative to hold governments accountable. When political parties make commitments and we vote for them, it is our right to insist that those commitments are met and so on. So I can understand where the Honorable Egyapa Mercer is coming from. But I think it's also important that we are realistic. Okay. You cannot expect any government, even if the government is made up of angels from heaven, to meet all their election promises within 17 months. That's an unrealistic expectation. Okay. It's a completely unrealistic expectation. I mean, you yourself have said, from the newspaper clippings that you read, that this problem has persisted since 1960. That's your own claim. Since 1960, when Nkrumah was in power. From your own, claims, from the newspaper clips and so on. So how do you expect that the problem which has persisted since 1960 will be resolved in 17 months? Governance is not magic. Governance is not magic at all. If governance were magic, then with a wave of a wand, you could get the problems resolved. What I want to know is whether indeed today there are some measures or some policy perspectives which indicate that the problem is being dealt with or will be dealt with. For me, that is sufficient. You understand? Now, nobody can say that the problem of perennial flooding will be solved just by harvesting rainwater. That would be so pedestrian, you understand? Nobody can say that. Nobody can say that the reintroduction of peri-urban agriculture will stop the problem of perennial flooding. It cannot. These are measures we can be taken at the individual level. They can also be taken at the planning level. If our planners decide what kind of house you build, in what kind of location, and it can become part of our planning goals that for every house which is built in Accra, that house necessarily must have a rain harvesting system. It can become part of planning and so on. Ultimately, I indicated that people like me, mere journalists and so on, cannot resolve this crisis. We may not even know how to resolve this crisis. But ultimately, there's a planning question, it's an engineering question. There's a question that governmental power, ought to be used in answering. And like my brother, Honorable Egyapa Mercer, I would insist that the current government, like future governments and past governments, the citizens have a right to insist that their governments, whether they are current, whether they are future governments and so on, do the things which will bring relief to them. But in making that insistence, we also ought to be realistic. You understand? That's my take.
All right. I agree with you 100% that some of these matters cannot be resolved in 17 months. And that's why I said that, well, when some of us speak, they will tell us that they have 4 years. I agree. But you see, every government, and before I even go to every government, it's also true that you cannot fulfill all your manifesto commitments within 17 months. In fact, to a large extent, you can't fulfill all of them within the 4-year cycle. Because the commitments that you make, reality will hit when you come into government. But in all of this, there is what we call priority. The government prioritizes the drainage systems that it knew in 2024 was going to happen. The rains were going to come in 2025 and 2026. They would have put his money where his mouth was. This is the government that is spending huge sums of money building 24-hour markets that they expect people to go and do what during the day and go to go and sell at night. The president has committed funds to build 261 markets. That's his priority. So I'm saying that if the government prioritized building of drains to deal with the perennial water problem that it knew was going to happen during its tenure, and that these people who are suffering can't wait till 2028 before they ask the question, it would have put the money where it is required. But that's the issue. I'm not seeing it. Where is it? Where are the drains? Where are the drains? As far as I'm concerned,
this is the regional minister, Honorable Okulu, visiting Ramsar sites, demolition buildings that are on
Ramsar sites. They are the drains.
No, there are places.
I read. It was deliberate. I went to their manifesto. I didn't speak out of 10. I went to the documents that they signed with the people of Ghana, the social contract, their manifesto, and read specific interventions that they themselves had outlined.
Sure.
I'm saying that I don't see the government funding those interventions that he proposed to deal with the problems that is causing the suffering of Ghanaians today. You think that, yes, it cannot be solved in the stroke of a hand. I agree. But I'm saying that, are we seeing clear signs on the ground of a government that is really committed to delivering on this mandate? I don't.
You see, my brother.
That's it.
My brother. Life sometimes gets very interesting. If Honorable Egyapa Mercer had landed in this studio this morning from outer space, where he had been for the past 2,000 years, I can understand what he's saying. fortunately or maybe unfortunately, there was a man who was in government.
Yes.
As 17 months ago.
100%.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
As 17 months ago, he's not coming from outer space. He had the mandate of the people of Ghana, which included solving the problems he's discussing now. Now, if your government had acted the way you want the Mahama government to act, would the Mahama government have come to meet a problem in the first place? You were sitting there for 8 years. If you did what you are saying government should do today, there would not even have been a problem for somebody to come and deal with. So please, let's be realistic. I understand that your government could not do everything. In much the same way that I understand that today, the Mahama administration cannot do everything and anything. There are constraints. And you, having been a deputy minister before, having been a member of parliament before, and on top of everything, being a very articulate lawyer and so on, you should know these things. Let's stop this attitude.
You see, ordinarily, I will agree with you.
Okay.
Ordinarily. But much in the same way that you say that if Akufo-Addo's government has solved these problems, it is the same way that I can put it to you that if Mr. Mahama's government between 2012 and 2016 had solved these problems, much in the same way that we can go back and back. Please. Yeah, we can go all the way back to 1960.
Yes.
But I'm saying that at the time that Mr. Mahama and his team were putting together this manifesto, which has a 4-year timeline, they knew the issues.
Just as you knew.
I don't have a problem. That's why we're not saying, I'm not in government though. My party is not in government. My party lost an election. And I'm saying that Mr. Mahama and his government made promises knowing exactly what was on the ground. That's my point. You can go back to Akufo-Addo's government all you want. It did not make these promises in the 2024 manifesto elections of the NDC. The NDC government did. So we will hold them. Whether you like it or not, or anybody. The point is this. At the time that they were doing this manifesto, they knew that these were the issues that we were confronting this country. And they promised that when they are voted into office, they are going to solve them. You can't go back and say that if Akufo-Addo had solved it. Why? If Akufo-Addo had solved it, would they have put it in their manifesto? Or if Mr. Rawlings and Mr. Mahama himself had solved it, would it have come into their 2024 manifesto?
Or if Buzia had solved
whatever. I'm saying we can go back all the way to 1920 in pre-independence.
Exactly.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
The point is this. At the time that the commitment was being made, they knew the problems were there. And they promised that they were going to introduce these interventions to deal with them. I'm saying that, yes, I agree. It cannot all be done in 17 months, no doubt. But where are the building blocks that tell me that indeed and in fact the government is committed to resolving these problems? I don't see it. That's the point.
Uncle, yes, that's running so that we'll move on to the next.
See, Egyapa is my friend and brother. He knows that. Okay. I don't want to explain how he's my friend and brother. So when you meet him on a platform like this, sometimes you exercise a lot of restraint, you know. And I'm struggling to exercise some restraint. Did you hear him? That in the last election, only the NDC saw this as a priority. And that they didn't make these promises.
Not at all. That's not what I said.
Can I finish?
But if you misquote me, I have to correct you. That's not what I said.
You have the opportunity to do that.
Very well.
So at least let me finish saying what
maybe some of the listeners will leave. So if I need to let you know that that's not what I said.
Okay, no problem.
Before some people leave there.
But you said that you didn't make these promises. They made those promises.
No. Well, go ahead.
My brother, if your technical team is able to play back what you just said, it will be fantastic. You said that you didn't make these promises, so we can't hold you responsible. What? You didn't see the need to construct drains? You didn't see the need to construct water reservoirs, which will hold water and so on, in order to avoid flooding? You didn't even see the need. My goodness. What else should I say? I have nothing to say.
This is pure mischief.
Oh.
Oh, no. With respect, this is pure mischief.
You just said...
Because, please, you say I should interject you, so please, you don't interject. Please. Pure mischief. Because the point I'm making is this, that regardless of MPP what they said, MPP is not the party in government. So you can't hold MPP to anything that he says in this manifesto. It is the ruling party, the party that won the election, whose manifesto that any Ghanaian can interrogate.
That's right.
So why are you saying that we didn't see a problem?
You said it.
Please.
You said
I'm speaking. But they made it in their manifesto and they won.
Did you make the promise?
We didn't win, so our manifesto is immaterial.
Did you make the promise?
We did not win an election. We don't have any social contract with the people of Ghana.
Agree.
So our manifesto is immaterial.
Did you say that you didn't?
It doesn't matter. It does not matter. It doesn't. I'm saying that the manifesto that the Ghanaian people can hold account for is the NDC manifesto.
Sure.
And the commitments that they made is what I'm interrogating.
Correct.
So what has that MPP got to do with anything?
I'm not the one.
What has a party whose manifesto was rejected by the people of Ghana got to do with anything?
I'm not the one.
It is not material to the conversation that we are having on this table today. Because the MPP is not in office. Whatever we said, the people of Ghana did not buy it. They bought the NDC manifesto. So don't bring MPP in.
Am I the one bringing it?
But you brought it. We brought us in.
Mercer.
Okay, if I said any suggestion, it probably was a slip. But I didn't even. Okay. That's what I'm saying. The point I'm making is clear. No, please, no. The point I'm making is very clear. Please. You understood precisely what I meant. You did. I know you. You're a very experienced senior man to this game. You understood me perfectly. But I know you. You and I, we go way back.
And you know me as a mischief.
No, on this particular subject, you are playing mischief. Because you understood the point that I was making. That the manifesto that the good people of this country can hold in asking questions is certainly not the MPP manifesto. MPP had programs from archaeology to zoology. All the problems that this country has. You proffer solutions. Yes, including drains. We mentioned Pualugu in our previous manifesto. We couldn't get the funding to do it. True. Right?
Mercer.
And it's in this manifesto as well that they're going to do it. So, in year 3, we'll start asking the questions. Now, where is Pualugu down? Have you heard any signs of they even proceeding with anything Pualugu? But they said it. And Bagri, it's all here. What you call it, the other one. One other dam. They mentioned it all here, it's all here. I'm saying that what we can ask questions on is the manifesto of the NDC. These were commitments not written by me or His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia or even President Akufo-Addo. Mr. Mahama, the president, and his team put this down in their documents. I'm asking the questions. And you say MPP didn't identify these problems. What has that got to do with anything?
So Mercer, I beg you. Okay. Before you come in.
All right.
Listen. Who can disagree with Honorable Egyapa Mercer that today what is in issue is the NDC manifesto? Nobody can disagree. Okay? The MPP manifesto was rejected. President Mahama was elected.
Yes.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was not elected. So what is in issue today is the NDC manifesto and the extent to which it is being implemented. I agree with you. Nobody can disagree with you. Okay. Now, I'm not going to push this matter because you have said that what you said may have been a slip. I want to accept it as a slip and then we'll move on. You understand? So I'm not even going to do the analysis. Once you have come to admit that there was a slip, it was a slip, let's move on. I'm not going to waste my time on a slip. Slip of tongue, slip of mouth, slip of brain, whatever it was a slip. Put it aside, let's move forward.